The phenomenon of the Lavender Town tone is a legend that involves a bizarre spate of medical cases and deaths from around the country that have been connected to the Pocket Monsters or Pokemon series of video games. In particular, the first two games of the series, Red and Green. Though the event is largely unheard of due to disclosure laws for companies based in Kyoto Prefecture, there is a large amount of information that has been brought into the open by a number of dedicated individuals, such as Seki Uchitada, Issei Mitsumoto, and Sato Haru, to which this page is dedicated. Thanks also goes out to Ando Kagitada for providing images and animated GIFs for the visual phenomena. This analysis will discuss the other phenomena that is also often confused with the Lavender Town tone, known as White Hand Sprite, Ghost Animation, and Buried Alive model, as well as the semi-related developer tag that was inserted into the games and how to safely perform these Easter eggs in post-First Wave cartridges. The first cases of the Lavender Town tone and associated events were reported a few months after the release of Pocket Monsters Red and Green for the handheld Game Boy video console. These video games were wildly popular with children between the ages of 7 and 12, the core demographic, which was no doubt one of the reasons why the Lavender Town tone had the level of severity that it did. In the game, the players take on a role of a trainer, whose task is to capture, tame, and train wild creatures called Pocket Monsters for battle. These games and the two newest additions to the series, Pocket Monsters Gold and Silver, an anime, manga, figurine set, collectible card game, and home console games, have resulted in Pocket Monsters becoming a multi-billion-dollar franchise. In one part of the game, the trainer comes to a small, out-of-the-way place called Lavender Town. This town is one of the smallest hamlets in the game aside from the trainer's own hometown, and possesses very few of the services available to the trainer in every other city of the game. Indeed, the location would be unremarkable were it not for Pokemon Tower, a colossal building that holds the graves of hundreds of deceased Pokemon. It is theorized that because of this location in the game, at least 200 children lost their lives, and many more developed sudden illnesses and afflictions. In fact, this doesn't even consider the vast waves of unreported illnesses or deaths whose causes were unnoticed. It was not until the spring of 1996 that causes that would eventually become linked to the Lavender Town tone began to surface. The earliest record of acknowledgement of these effects of the Lavender Town tone that the author could find came from an internal report made in June of 1996 by the company Game Freak Incorporated, which was then leaked by one of its former employees, Misato Haru. In it, the employees gave a list of names, dates, and symptoms, records of children between the ages of 7 and 12 who have suffered various medical problems as a result of playing Pocket Monsters Red and Green. Some of the records are listed below. It should be noted that entries in the appendix also include symptoms born not from the Lavender Town tone, but from the so-called White Hand Sprite, Ghost Animation, and Buried Alive model, all of which were visual phenomena that provoked similar but distinct symptoms. More details on Part 2. April 12th, 1996. Age 11. Obstructive sleep apnea, severe migraines. May 23rd, 1996. Age 12. General irritability, insomnia, addiction to video games, nosebleeds, developed into violent streaks against others and eventually himself. Deceased. April 27, 1996. Age 11. Cluster headaches, irritability, eventually took mixed painkillers. Deceased. March 4th, 1996. Age 7. Migraines, sluggish and slow behavior, unresponsiveness, developed into deafness and went missing. Body later discovered beside the road, April 20th, 1996. Deceased. The document that was circulated internally was the first time these incidents had been connected with the Pocket Monsters video games. Until then, the cause had not been discovered or diagnosed by medical professionals. Indeed, it's uncertain how the company themselves managed to find the cases related to the events without seeking advice from medical services. The predominant symptoms related to what became later known as the Lavender Town tone includes headaches and migraines, bleeding from the eyes and ears, mood swings and irritability, addiction to games, unprovoked violence, withdrawal and unresponsiveness, and in about 67% of cases, suicidal tendencies. However, these symptoms only manifest in children between the ages of 7 and 12 who have reached the area in the game known as Lavender Town. Most of them were revealed to have been wearing headphones or earphones while playing the game at the time. As it turns out, the developers of the Lavender Town area had sought to make an area that would leave an impression on the player, according to Seki Uchitada, a member of the development team. Seki claimed that at the time of development, a number of the team were interested in making Lavender Town a little different from the rest of the game. The Pokemon Tower is a visible result of that, Seki told Game Dimensions magazine in an interview earlier this year. That and the fact that Lavender Town is so different from all other cities in the game. It's smaller, has fewer people occupying it, no gym, and, of course, the music is very, very eerie. In fact, in the first version of the game, we were told to slightly change the song played in the background of Lavender Town because our manager told us that it would make children upset. The music used in subsequent versions is different. Either Seki is unaware of the full impact of Lavender Town, or was vastly under-exaggerating how upset children would get. No more is said of the music in the article, but there are mentions of Lavender Town's other macabre features. When Seki failed to disclose to Game Dimensions magazine was that the music used in the first wave release of Pocket Monsters Red and Green was formulated out of an experiment in binaural beats, using slightly different frequencies of sound. Each frequency played in one ear through the headphones or earphones, and various psychological effects can be induced upon the listener. In most versions of the first wave releases, this results in the player feeling uneasy, apprehensive, and mildly disturbed. However, for upwards of 200 children, it provoked a variety of disturbances in the brain that went undetected purely because it was undetectable by fully developed human ears. Instead, only children fell victim to the tones, resulting in psychological and physiological problems that in some cases lead to death, many of which were suicides.